Welcome to the Wellfuel Podcast, your spot for everything gut health, detox, hormones, a healthy home, mold, and everything in between. I'm your host, Isabel Smith. I'm an integrative and functional registered dietitian and the founder of Isabel Smith Nutrition. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Wellfuel Podcast. This is Isabel, and I'm your host, and today we are talking all things how to navigate being absolutely terrified of ticks and bugs now that it's spring and summer. This is something that I definitely resonate with, and I was thinking today about my own precautions and sort of what we've started as the season's gotten warmer, and I thought this might be a really helpful conversation for those of you guys out there who either have Lyme disease, have had Lyme disease, are terrified of Lyme disease, have family members with it. It's like you look at a big field of grass and all I can see is the ticks in that grass. And I know that this isn't an uncommon feeling. And so the question and conversation really is around like, how do you navigate that? What do I do to help make sure that I don't pick up ticks, that the dogs don't pick up ticks? Rewinding back so many years, 30 years, maybe blindly we were living sort of in a place where we were just like out in the fields. And I remember running through tall grass and it was amazing and it was so wonderful. And I don't remember ever checking myself before, I don't know, something like my mid-20s. I think I had this like very like, feeling like, oh, if a tick was to bite me, it would be a really big tick and I would definitely see that tick. And if I don't see a tick and it's not obvious, then it couldn't be me. The thing is that if you guys have been following me or listening to any of the podcasts over time, have listened to the fact that I've had Babesia, Bartonella, Lyme, relapsing fever, and I'm about to be tested tomorrow actually for a different type of Babesia because unfortunately I have a feeling that we're not completely done with her. When you get bitten by a tick, you have access to so many different bugs, from Babesia to anaplasmosis, toxoplasmosis, alpha-gal, Lyme, relapsing fever, and depending on the type of tick that you get bitten by. Unfortunately, the standardized Western blot really only picks up active infections, super recent bites, but doesn't pick up old infections. And there's a lot of biofilm that is tied to these infections and can sort of sit in the background and your immune system knows it's there, but we can't necessarily pick it up on a test. So we will get back to the beautiful big field in the grass and how to navigate that. But I just want to give you guys a little bit of thinking and background. The ticks that carry the most disease are actually the teeny tiny nymphs. Nymph season comes before. It's like April, May, and then like later in the year, like August, I think through November. And so these ticks are literally so tiny that you quite honestly cannot see them. I saw one only because I lint rolled, which we'll get to shortly. I lint rolled and found this teeny tiny speck of a microspeck that I sort of zoomed in on and realized that it had legs. So you're probably not going to see the ticks that you really should be afraid of. And again, I'm adding to the stress and the trauma around a big open field. The truth is that nature is super relaxing and important for your nervous system. And it's really important for you to be able to be out in nature, but how can you do so safely? And what can you do to protect yourself? This is definitely something I wrestled with. I find myself, feeling anxious around having our dogs in a friend's yard. I don't know how they're protecting against, ticks. And again, people can be very relaxed about this. Given what we've been through, the dogs are not positive for any of these bug-borne illnesses that I've talked about that we've found, but Paul and I certainly are. So first of all, I don't go running through fields anymore. I just don't do it. I like to find places where there are paths or trails or walking paths that I can walk on. It doesn't mean that a tick can't drop out of the trees. And I was super naive to think that Central Park in New York City didn't have a tick problem. Central Park absolutely has a tick problem. I could have even gotten some of the ticks that I had on my body from sitting in grass in Central Park, not worrying because I didn't think it was possible that there would be ticks there. Well, dogs that have been elsewhere bring ticks to that area. Rodents actually carry the most ticks. If you didn't know, the white-footed mouse carries the most ticks. You can go back and listen to a different episode here that I have with Mary Beth Charno. who's a Lyme expert on talking about this. Birds carry ticks. Obviously, deer carry ticks, but it's actually not so much the deer that we worry about. Again, it's the white-footed mouse. So, I think you can be out in that field. You're not going to catch me at this point out in a field unless it's super shortcut, although I've picked up that nymph I was just talking about in a super shortcut field. And yeah, you're not going to see me out there, but you certainly could go out there yourself and you could do so very safely, especially if you have your thinking cap on properly about it. So first and foremost, don't wear shorts and, this maybe is the obvious, but wear long pants. Tuck your socks over your long pants. Wear light colored clothes. Wear white socks. You can see them on your shoes and socks. The hard part for me is getting back in the car after being somewhere and feeling like they're on me. So every single door of our car, I kid you not, has a lint roller in it. We also use this company called Tick-Borne. And Tick-Borne is wonderful. You can use it on yourself. You can use it on your pets, on your dogs. And I use a combo of both. So we'll Tick-Borne the dogs first and then lint roll. And the combination helps me get as much as I possibly can off of them. Dogs definitely increase your risk of picking up Lyme disease, no question. Especially the little guys because their bellies run along the ground or like in the grass. And so they have much more access to picking up ticks. When we got Moose, our third Yorkie, he's very light brown. I did that on purpose. He's not even brown. He's like almost translucent color fur. I can like sort of see through it, which is amazing because it's much easier to find ticks on them than it is Sash and Henry, who have like much darker fur on their back, hair, I should say. And so that for us definitely increases the risk of the, possibility of getting, ticks in our house, in our bed, on our furniture. We're not people who leave our dogs like in a cage and that never can come in our beds and on our furniture. So it's definitely an increased risk for us. You sort of have to balance the how do I live my life and how do I keep my nervous system calm. And for some people, that may just be like not going into nature. I have just chosen at this point to sort of take the approach, which is let me just arm myself with as much stuff as I can. We have a freebie that we'll be posting. We're going to post this freebie about how to take care of ticks. So go to our Instagram, Isabel Smith Nutrition, and comment on the post, follow the instructions, and we will automatically send you that freebie because we have all of our favorite products in there. I put natural tick sprays, tick mitt, my favorite lint rollers. Believe me, I've tried all of them. I think if you're armed and aware, it can be totally safe. I think if you feel the need to walk through a field with shorts on, you shouldn't be doing that. That's just my opinion. Unfortunately, with global warming and climate change, ticks are really much more rampant than they ever have been. And so it's just something you need to be careful of. You can run, but you can't hide. They're pretty much everywhere in the United States. California has a tremendous problem with both Lyme disease as well as many other bugs. And so it's, Paul and I've had conversations like, oh, should we move to Arizona? Should we whatever? And, Arizona like might be safe because it's hot enough in the desert, but there are other things. There's like scorpions and what have you. So when you go somewhere, there's kind of something everywhere. And so where we have our house up in Lake Placid, we will often go to some specific locations. It feels definitely like there are fewer ticks up there than there are here in Fairfield County, Connecticut, but something we're definitely on the lookout for. And we are lint rolling, we are tick mitting all three dogs and then ourselves. And one of the most important things about the whole tick conversation is that the tick has to be on you for 24 hours. So I personally find it really hard to come home and like strip down immediately and then get in the shower because often I'm going to work out or I'm going to do something else after I do so. However, it's something I really need to work on. So I'm committing here, talking in this podcast about the importance of coming home after being somewhere, stripping down, throwing your clothes at least in the dryer for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then also taking a shower. I have a long neck brush in my shower that I use to scrub. And what happens if I find a tick on me? If it's been on me for whatever, a couple hours and it's not embedded, no big deal. I think it technically has to be embedded for 24 hours to actually create problems. There are amazing herbal protocols that you can utilize if you've been bitten and or call your practitioner and get a doxy, like 2 doses of 100 milligrams of doxycycline. It's not something you want to mess around with, and it's not something that you want to be casual about. The other thing you can do is you can send the tick off for testing, and we will put that, I forget the exact website, we will put that in our show notes, so check out the show notes. Sending the tick in for testing, you do still kind of miss the window by which you might get some kind of like early treatment. Getting early treatment if you do get bitten is really helpful and preventative against getting some of the like Babesia other bugs. The doxy is sort of said to kill the infection, prevent you from getting the infection. If you do the 100 milligram doxy, especially if you're in an area where there is a lot of Lyme disease or it is a nymph tick. I ended up getting bitten by a nymph tick in August of 2023. I found the tick on Henry, or it wasn't even, it was like in his fur on the lint roller. I had it in my hand, was trying to get it out the window, and I dropped it. 4 days later, I was really unwell. I never saw the tick. Like I said, I've never seen a tick on me. And if I didn't say it, I'll say it again. I've never seen a tick on me. I've never been bitten by a tick that I could tell. But clearly I have been because of all the infection I've had in my body. So how do you navigate like being in nature? So we have our yard here treated by a company called Connecticut Tick. We like them a lot. They're partners with New York Tick, and they do tick boxes. So you could probably get this anywhere in the country, tick boxes. So what that does is it's a little box that they place strategically on the property. Our property is about as big as a postage stamp here, but I still do this. And what happens is it attracts the white-footed mouse. The white-footed mouse goes through and basically gets, it's not exactly, but the equivalent to sort of like a front line, which is, what you'd use on a dog to prevent it from getting bitten, whatever. So basically they can't carry Lyme disease carrying ticks, and neither can their babies once they have been sprayed with this stuff. It is not harmful to the animals. They will not die, but it is a way to reduce the amount of ticks on your property and also ticks with Lyme. Year over year, this sort of treats the population of animals in and around your area, in and around your property. And over time, you start by spraying and using the boxes. And then over time, you transition to just using the boxes. So we started with them last year. They sprayed 3 times and put the boxes. This year, they put the boxes and we'll spray twice. And then over time, you'll just use the boxes as it gets more and more established in the area and on the property. So we do that here. We mostly have our dogs here versus out in the woods and such. Again, in Lake Placid, we go to one particular place and we're just really careful. But I have them walking on the street on leash. Some of my dogs like that, some of them don't. That helps me. It helps us all walk together, and it helps me not feel super anxious about it. It's definitely difficult. And if you've got kids and they're out in the fields and what have you, you could spray their shoes with the tick spray. Again, you can go to Isabel Smith Nutrition and get our freebie where we have all of our favorite linked things. Lint roll your kids when they come in from playing, have them stripped down, definitely do tick checks on them, watch for weird symptoms, joint pain, illness, fever, and definitely get them checked because, blood checked if you feel like you're suspicious of maybe they got bitten. If you have an acute infection, which means a recent infection, you will show up positive on your test, your blood test that you do with the doctor. So it's definitely something that you can check for and you can keep an eye on, which is very, very helpful. But it is definitely, it's a thing. Once you've had Lyme disease, you look at a field and all you see is all the ticks in the field. And it's really challenging because there's nothing better for your nervous system than that. You won't catch me outside barefoot anymore. Maybe in my backyard, but probably not even. It's just not something I do anymore. It's something I used to do, and it's something that I just don't do anymore after being through all the things I've been through with this stuff. Because once you get it, it's like a party favor that you just have. It's just very hard to clear it, especially if you're somebody who has had, multiple run-ins with it or you've been sick from it. So it's definitely a hard conversation, and it's one that I think about often, especially when driving by beautiful places and beautiful fields, as I drive in the car. Either you handle it with being super prepared or you just avoid it, but it's definitely not something to be anxious about. If you're going to go out and you're going to be in nature, then you just are armed and careful. You can buy permethrin treated clothing You have to sort of treat the permethrin treated clothing differently than like clothes that just like hang in your closet. But it's definitely a super accessible way to get you closer in nature. If you like to camp or what have you, you might consider using these kinds of things. LL Bean sells them. You can like search them online. But be careful, my friends. And if you're out in the woods and you're not checking for ticks, please do. A lot of people get bitten but never have problems with it, or they don't have problems until many years later. It can be very hard to trace back to where you got bitten. But it's not something you want if you can avoid it. Take it from me. It's something I wish I could have avoided better and wish I'd been kind of smarter and more careful about. My biggest concern is my hair because my hair is very dark and kind of around the nape of my neck, behind my ears is always what worries me. And these tiny ticks, you'll be lucky if you find one engorged on your body or you won't. And maybe you'll, get sick. So just be really careful. Wear your hair up, check your neck, check behind your knees. They like to crawl into warm areas on your waist, on your like waistband line, under your armpits, all that kind of stuff, because that's the places that they tend to like to go and hide. So try not to be panicked about it. Our bodies have enough things to be panicked over. Make a plan, be actionable, have your tools, and use them to help you navigate what's right for you and your family. Reach out if you have questions. This is a great conversation. We'd love to keep having this conversation. It's something that's unfortunately not going to go away. It's only going to get worse. So I think being armed and prepared is the best strategy. As always, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time right here on the Wellfuel Podcast. As always, thanks so much for listening to the Wellfuel Podcast. We're so happy to have you. To make sure you don't miss a beat, please subscribe either on Apple or Spotify because we have tons of great content. If you want to make sure that you're up to date on everything we're doing in the business with our clients and new offers and all the things, make sure that you check us out at Isabel Smith Nutrition on Instagram and isabelsmithnutrition.com. See you guys soon.